Hey, what's up everybody? This is Jeremy from Justice League Swag, and today I'm going to give you my deck profile of my premium gold build that got second place up at White Plains. So first off, we're going to run the original starter Crimson Lion Cub Kirf. Essentially what I do is on my turn 2 plays, essentially if I'm on my Bowmains, go get my Gareth, and then from there go right into Ezel, which I'll go into later. For the Great Free lineup, run 2 Raven-haired Ezel. Didn't really see much play with this, but if I ever needed to, if I have an Ezel in the Vanguard, Counterblast 1, Superior Ride, and then basically on attack, if I have an open Counterblast 1, give it plus 15,000 extra critical, and then my opponent cannot use any Sentinels. Next up, the main boss, which I only ran 3 of, 3 Iridescent Lion Blind Ezel. So essentially, this is the main heart and build of the whole build. You want to get to this ASAP. I have 2 ways to get to this, and I'll get to that in a little bit. Most of the time, I never use his on-attack ability to call out other cards, because most of the time, I've already got a board set out ready to go. And most of the time, I'm going into my strides late game. Next up, I ran 4 Battlefield Storm Sagamore. Essentially, what he's there for, not only is he a 12k power boost, but when called from the hand, Soul Blast 1, draw a card, and call a card from my hand to rear guard. Or as I like to do, chain call combo. For the grade 2 lineup, we ran the main grade 2 you want to see 9 times out of 10. Knight of Superior Skill Bowman. When placed from the hand, discard a card, search your build of Knight of Elegance Gareth, call him out, and then from there just go into Ezel. Most of the time, I never got his secondary ability to get plus 3,000 because it really wasn't required. Next up, I ran a actual tech card, which a lot of people didn't run in Ezel Turbo. 4 player of the Holy Bow, Vivian. So essentially, when placed from hand, Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 3, call a card, and then she gets plus 3,000. Essentially good for rush in early game and late game for when I need extra columns. Now, I did run 3 Flame Wind Lion Wonder Ezel, but I essentially ran 2 of the old school Wonder Ezel that when placed, if I have an Ezel Vanguard, search my build for an Ezel, give that new Ezel plus 5,000, and then from there continue on. And then I ran 1 copy of the new version, which essentially was clutch 1 time to when I actually had to ride this, have the Hoel, Soul Blast 1 retire, search for the Iridescent Lion Blind Ezel, and then continue to chain call it from there. For the grade 1 lineup, ran 4 copies of Knight of Elegant Skill Gareth. So essentially when he's called by a card ability, Counterblast 1, give him plus 10. Most of the time I never did that ability, because most of the time he's just sitting there as an 8k booster. And most of the time he's going into Soul for the Superior Ride. Next up, I ran 3 Crimson Lion Beast Hoel. So essentially, when I boost with him and I have an Ezel Vanguard, Counterblast 1, put him into Soul, draw a card, and call a card from my hand to rear guard. Basically, he's essentially the grade 1 Sagamore. I only ran him at 3 just because it's a tech card for me, and it's one of those that you don't see often in a build. Next up, 3 Strife Otters, self-explanatory, the Strife Otters. For the last grade 1, I only ran 3 Deandrin. Most of the time, I used her for when I'm going for like Vivian to call Soul Blast 1 to either draw a card plus 3,000 counter charge. Most of the time, I used her abilities to draw extra cards because I was always low on hand 9 times out of 10. The 1 time that I got the counter charge, I used it for Gareth late game to get plus 10,000. For the trigger lineup, 4 copies of the heal trigger, new ones to be specific, just for G Guardians and for healing. We ran 4 copies of Halo Shield Mark to draw a trigger perfect card. Mostly. For the critical triggers, I ran 3 Flame of Victory, and I ran 3 copies of Knight of Blue Sky Giant. And then for my last trigger, I ran 2 stands. Cash Cow Liberator. A lot of you are probably like, why are you running Cash Cow? So essentially, there are certain scenarios in this build, i.e. Vivian. When I look at the top 3 and I call Cash Cow, I can return Cash Cow to the bottom of the build. I can check the top 3 again, call another card, and then I can reshuffle the build from there. Essentially great for when I'm going into striding, because now it's like, oh, I have stand triggers. Hit the stand trigger, I stand another unit, and now it's essentially more attacks coming at you. For the stride zone, we ran 4 copies of Gurgi Helios. Essentially, any build's going to run 4. When you get your knight, you persona flip, you give him quad drive. Generation break free. For each one of my rear guards, he'll get plus 5,000, and my opponent can't use grade 1s or higher from the hand. Really essential. Essentially, by the time Hale is swinging, it's always 5 rear guards, so it's always 52. Next up, 2 Golden Dragon, Glorious Rain Dragon. Again, he's your knight just like Helios, but on attack, I counterblast 1, I send 2 of my rear guards back, and based off how many's face up on the G zone, I can call potentially a whole new field. At minimum, I'll call 3, so essentially I'll countercharge Soul Charge, so it basically pays to call almost. Next up, 2 Mithril Ezel. For the rare chances that I can't get Helios off on Unite, I'll go into him, counterblast 1, persona flip. If my cards are locked, I potentially unlock them, look at the top 5, call a card, and whatever that card I called, I give himself and that call card its original base power that it's called. So if I were to say call Ravenhair Ezel, himself and Ravenhair get plus 12,000. Essentially big attack lanes. Next up, and I only played 2 of him, and only got to use him 1 time, Holy Sword of the Heavenly Law Gurgit. So essentially on Unite, counterblast 1, drop 1 card from your hand. At Unite, I look at the top 7, call a card, and then shuffle. But the extra ability for it is every face of Gurgit in the G zone, including himself, all cards on the field get plus 2,000. So essentially, by late game, if you have 5 face-up Gurgits, it's plus 10,000 to everything. Big power lane is just coming. Essentially, the only time that happened, it was not worth it. For every Ezel build, there's always a Zero Dragon. I never even got to him once, which is surprising. It's just that 1 card you see. For my G Guardians, I ran 2 Super G Guards just to filter out stuff, and then it'd be like, okay, counterblast 1, persona flip, or flip over my slimy flares. Check the top 2. Whatever I called goes to the shield failure. If the attack does not hit, I can call that card that I called off her ability to an open rear guard circle, or to a guardian. Anything I need. And then for the recycle, 3 slimy flares. When placed, you can choose to send 1 of your rear guards back to the bottom of the build. If you do, check the top 5, call 2 different grades, and then from there reshuffle your build. Essentially, it just recycles and filters. Now, for the combo that everybody likes going into. So let's just say our grade 1 turn we go Deandra and Shimu's bag, and let's just say I take 1 or 2 damage. Essentially, if I'm going second, I can go Bowmane's discard, search the Gareth, care skill can be required to where I can pull these in 2, go get the Blonde Ezel, and essentially I can open up my cell markers. Then from here I can either say, oh cool, I got this old Wonder Ezel on the field, ability, go search out another Blonde Ezel, open up another cell marker. That's the old way a lot of people do, but the way that I've had to do it a lot of times, let's just say I'm at 2 damage, and I got, say, the new Wonder Ezel. And then we have Hillel on the rear guard with the starter. I can choose not to use the starter's ability. I can go Soul Blast 1, retire him, search the build for Blonde Ezel. Granted, it loses drive check -1, but it's still getting your grade 3 open for cell markers. The whole point of the build is you want to get your cell markers at least 1 to 2, so that way by the time your opponent's getting the grade 3, they don't have much of a hand to work with. So, for the matches that I played up there, round 1 in Swiss, I played against Bermuda, and essentially, I forgot that they could Superior Ride as well. And they hit the Superior Ride on me. I didn't, get my grade 2s that I needed. They strided when I was on 2, and it just was a downhill battle from there. Round 2, I won against Bermuda. Again, missed the Superior Ride, but my opponent had the G-assist from 0 to 1, which essentially put him back so far to where I couldn't really do much, but I was able to do just enough to where I could win. Round 3, played against a gold mirror match. Essentially, it was a back and forth matchup, but essentially it came down to me double triggering at the right time. Round 4, played against Novas, and Novas, by the time they got the grade 3, had 1 card in hand. That's all you need to say. Round 5 was the same thing with Link Joker. By the time they got the grade 3, they had 1 card in hand. They were at 5 damage. Round 6, I played against OTT Geese. And as much as I say that, yes, I got the Superior Ride, and yes, I was able to stride, and yes, I was able to crank out damage, I couldn't drop their hand. I essentially found out they ran 12 draw triggers, and the rest is history. Round 7, again, I played against Bermuda. And this was the one time in the whole tournament to where I actually decided, okay, I have the Bowmans, I have the Gareth and that, but instead of Superior Riding to let my opponent go into stride, I essentially kept my board and basically allowed me to get stride advantage. Essentially, from that point on, I took the game. In the top 8 matchup, after we found out we got top 8, played against Nubatama. Let me just say, Nubatama versus Golds, it's not fun. Essentially, I just said, okay, miss the Superior Ride. When I do get the grade 3, I got 7 cards in hand. Now I'm down to 2, and it's like, ouch. Top 8 matchup, we got the match just because my teammates got my back for that. Top 4 matchup was probably the best time the build went into acceleration mode. I played against ZTB Turbo. I got the dice roll first. I got the Wonder Ezel. But from here, it's like, okay, this is when the build got into Madness Land, where, okay, I had an open counterblast. Got the Vivian. Let's say, counterblast 1, soul blast 1. Off the top 3, I got Wonder Ezel. Wonder Ezel opened up another Excel marker just off everything that happened. And literally, I had Raven here in my hand. It was like, okay, counterblast 1. Because I had Sagamore in the hand, the soul blast 1, again, to draw a card, get the Deandrin, get him out. And it's like, by the time he got done his grade 2 turn, I have 3 Excel markers, and he's already on the ropes. And afterwards, I found out that he only had 4 4s in his hand to guard with. So I was like, well, okay. The final round, it was a gold mirror match. And all I'm going to say, it was the best match of the day. Yes, I won dice roll. Yes, I had the Superior Ride. But on my rush turn, my opponent hit 2 triggers and the game switched over to her. And it's like, it went back and forth from there. On her final push turn, she hit me with Ultima, and I couldn't really do anything about it. So essentially, I went 6 and 4. Yes, I had to get carried by the team. But when I had to pick up my matches, I mattered. That's the tournament report. That's the deck list. Hope everybody liked it. Please comment and subscribe and like it. And we'll be back with another deck profile coming soon.